Hello, this is Christopher Chiron, CEO of Grayson & Company and founder and president of Action for Health. Dr. Cook, many congratulations to you, Rhonda, and the entire team for reaching this terrific milestone. It was an honor to be on the program last summer. What you were doing with Prescription for Success is not only informative, but also powerful. And the insights you and your guests continue to provide are needed now more so than ever. I hope to sit down with you again soon, and I look forward to listening in to your next 100 episodes. Congratulations again. Keep up the wonderful work.
Well, dear Randy and Rhonda, congratulations for this incredible milestone, 100 podcasts. I was sure that you will be successful because the quality of your program is so incredibly high in all respects. Thank you very much for hosting me in your wonderful program. I hope you will reach number 200, 300, and so forth, and I'll be more than happy to work with you in the future. Thank you.
What's my RX for Success? Listen to RX for Success every time there's a new issue.
Paging Dr. Cook. Paging Dr. Cook. Dr. Cook, you're wanted in the OR. Dr. Cook, you're wanted in the OR.
Welcome to the Prescription for Success podcast with your host, Dr. Randy Cook.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Prescription for Success. I'm Dr. Randy Cook, your host for the podcast, which is a production of MD Coaches, providing leadership and executive coaching for physicians by physicians to overcome burnout, transition your career, develop as a leader, or whatever your goal might be. Visit MD Coaches on the web at mymdcoaches.com because you're not in this alone. Well, it's a little hard for me to believe, but this is episode number 100 of RX for Success. Of course, we're very proud that we made it this far, and we're also very grateful to our guests who took the time to share their story, but also to all of you who took the time to join us and listen. So in recognition of this milestone, we're doing something a little different with episode number 100. We actually finish every interview with a rapid-fire question-answer segment, but unless you're a Patreon subscriber, you haven't heard that material. It's a lot of fun, and in a lot of cases, we learn some things about the guests that we would never have discovered otherwise. So, in this 100th episode, we're going to share some of the more memorable responses from our rapid-fire question segment. So, let's get on with the show. Dr. Carla Rodering has a very special talent. What weird or useless talent do you have?
Oh, yeah. You mean other than the chicken dance?
Listen, that sounds pretty good to me. You take it where you want it to go.
I will tell you what my kids would say. They would say my ability to keep my spices in alphabetical order, my clothes hung in the closet by color schemes, including the hangers. My books all in sections that are relatable to topic.
I see.
Yeah.
So your useless talent is obsessive compulsive disorder, is what you're saying.
It's the illusion of order. It's about as useful as the. I remember that the diameter of a ribosome is 120 angstroms. That is also not very useful to me.
You got it bad. Dr. Emily Silverman ties herself in knots quite literally.
When I was young, I used to be able to pop both of my shoulders out of the sockets.
You're a contortionist.
And I could grab my hands together and then swing them up over my head and then backwards and then down and then step over them and back to the front. And I can't do that anymore, but I can still grab my hands and move my arms back really, really far. But they don't pop out of the sockets anymore.
So wonder you didn't wind up in the circus. Dr. Pari Deshmukh is not only a psychiatrist, he's also a bit of a comedian.
Sometimes my humor is really is hard to understand, and and people say, "Is that a joke or what?" We call it PJs. PJs means empty jokes. So they're not very talented jokes. They're very silly jokes.
I bet they're loaded with wisdom. All right.
I don't think so.
Dr. Mari Lapartia, an obesity medicine specialist, tells us about a very special gift that she received. How about this one? What was the very best gift you ever received?
The best physical gift was the ring that my husband, with no training in jewelry making, made by himself for me.
Wow.
And worked at nights when I was working night shifts, and secretly in the basement bought all the equipment and worked every night that I did night shift.
I'm going to have to tell you that is the most romantic story that we have ever heard on Prescription for Success. That's great. Dr. Jessica Lubine got a really special gift from her husband.
The best gift I ever received. You know, my husband, when I met him, this was really embarrassing because I wasn't sure if we were dating yet. And so my mom said I should not buy him anything because I would look too desperate. And so I bought him like a Kiehl's gift set, which is this tiny bag of lotions.
Uh-huh.
But when he gave me my gift, he had bought a little trinket on every step of our relationship. Like, he had gone to Hawaii, so he had bought me something because he was visiting his brother. He had bought me something from Hawaii. You know, we had interviewed at Baylor, so he had gotten me something from, like, every little thing. We had met up in New York. He had gotten me something from New York. Just little things, little trinkets. And then he wrapped them all up in brown paper and tied them with string, and then wrote the lyrics of that Sound of Music song on it. And so I would know what order to open them all in. It was the most thoughtful gift ever. And it was so embarrassing too that I gave him, he does this and I hand him his Kiehl's, you know? But then I knew at that point he was a keeper.
Dr. Robin Tiger had a very surprising answer to the question, who had the biggest impact on who you are?
I'm actually going to say me. That's interesting.
It's a great answer.
I'm going to say me. Yeah.
Great answer. You want to enlarge on that a little bit? I want to hear more.
There's been so many people who have impacted my life, but it was me reaching out to them. It was me learning the education. It was me saying yes to myself that I want to save my own life, that I want to figure this out. I feel like it's me saying yes to me. And
that may be the wisest answer I have ever heard to that question. Good for you. Dr. Kimberly Jackson had a very interesting answer to the question, who in your life influenced you the most?
The biggest impact on the person I've become. In my formative years, I definitely would have said my mom or my dad, my parents, but I truly think now, being a mom and having girls, that my daughters have had the most impact on the person I've become. I mean, they make you, I think, all parents aren't the same. Everybody can have different things. I think there are some things that we have similar, but I know for myself, they make you evaluate life in a different way. I mean, it's not just about you. Of course, you want to make sure there's food on the table and there's a roof over our head and they have clothes, but you also want to raise decent, wonderful human beings that will be able to be productive citizens, but also good people. But you also want them to be happy and be able to succeed in life. So it's constantly with them in mind that I make decisions, right? So I want to make sure that they find out something about me, or they see what I do, or they see how I carry myself. One of the coolest things was having my daughter work with me in my office one summer, and she was seeing me interact with patients, and I could just see, and she told me afterwards, like, she was so proud of me. She was just like, your patients really love you. And you are so cool. And I'm telling you, coming from a teenager, that means a lot.
Dr. Brad Block, if you could trade lives with anyone for just one day, who would it be?
J.J. Abrams, because he was in charge of those last 3 Star Wars movies, and oh man, I would have done those so differently. I mean, Star Wars was just so central to my life growing up, and unfortunately for my wife and children, remains so. And I really think that episodes 7, 8, and 9 really, they could have done a much better job. They could have done. They were good, but they were disappointing. So if I had traded, maybe it would have taken more than a day in his life in order to change things around. But
that's
yes.
Great. Dr. Rob Kersner had a very quick answer to what's your favorite movie.
Being from New York, it's Godfather.
Had to be. Say no more. Dr. Robbie Pearl had a whole group of favorite movies.
I love movies. It's almost impossible to pick one, but I think that if I were to pick one, it would be The Godfather. I love the fact that in the 3, not the Godfather, the 3 Godfathers, because it really shows a life transition, and it ties into my own life. As you know, in the 3 movies, Marlon Brando comes into the first one. He's the immigrant coming out of Italy. He does what he can to get by. He raises his children to be more successful than him, and they are able to move into a business world, to move into Las Vegas, to do a bunch of things that allow the business to become more acceptable. And then by the 3rd generation, the people, the descendants, are all fully integrated, contributing in their own ways into the world that exists. And I think in many ways that's my family's story.
Carl Schuessler, healthcare finance expert, had a very quick answer to what one thing annoys you the most.
People that multitask and tell you that they're listening to you. It's impossible to multitask and sit and type a text or whatever and hear somebody. Nobody can multitask. Look at the physicians that are on the Epic system or Cerner or whatever, medical records, typing and hacking away. How can a doctor listen to me as well and be an active listener like they were before medical records came out? You know why medical records came out? I know you didn't ask, but I'm going to tell you. My dad says so all the lawyers can sue the doctors.
Dr. Sanj Katal had some very interesting thoughts on anger.
When I react out of conditioning as opposed to out of awareness and true intention.
So your anger is more self-directed than focused out there over things where you don't have any control. I think that's pretty wise.
Well, I still get angry out there too, but not quite as much.
Okay. Jill Einstein had a very quick answer to a question about what makes her angry.
These are really good.
It's hard for me to picture you annoyed, so I can't wait for this.
So it annoys me when my teenage daughter is annoyed at me for chewing too loudly when I'm eating in the kitchen and she walks in.
Well, who can avoid being annoyed with a teenager? We'll give you. Nobody's going to penalize you for that. So.
Right.
Congratulations to Dr. Randy Cook for achieving your 100th episode. Wow. Your interviews of wonderful physicians has great breadth of various domains and topics that have inspired your audience. I enjoyed even sharing myself, my first podcast on autism spectrum disorder, for your podcast. Your intimate interviews have been enlightening and a fun way to import great medical information that has been just wonderful. Kudos to you and your staff for putting this on over the years, many years. and we appreciate you.
Congratulations, Dr. Randy Cook. This is Janet Meeks, one of your healthcare administrator friends and someone who learned early on that without doctors, there are no patients. Thank you for the incredible wisdom that you continue to share, and I wish you all the best on this momentous occasion.
Congratulations, Randy and team. Your episodes are thoughtful and germane. Keep up the good work. This is Jim Etten.
Hi, I'm Rhonda Crow, founder and CEO for MD Coaches. Here on RX for Success, we interview a lot of great medical professionals on how they grew their careers, how they overcame challenges, and how they handle day-to-day work. I really hope you're getting a lot of great information. But if you're looking for an answer to a specific problem, management or administration challenge, or if you're feeling just a bit burnt out, like maybe you chose the wrong career, well, then there's a faster way to get the help you need. No, it's not counseling, it's coaching. RX for Success is produced by MD Coaches, a team of physicians who have been where you are. I know you're used to going it alone, but you don't have to. Get the support you need today. Visit us at mymdcoaches.com to schedule your complimentary consultation. Again, that's mymdcoaches.com, because you're not in this alone.
We'll get back to our interview in just a moment, but right now I want to tell you a little bit about Physician Outlook. If you haven't discovered this remarkable magazine, please do so very soon. It was created by physicians, for physicians, to showcase the intersection between clinical and non-clinical interests, whether it's writing, painting, cooking, politics, and dozens of other topics. Physician Outlook gives a physician perspective. It's available online and in print. It's really unique among physician lifestyle magazines. And like the Prescription for Success podcast, Physician Outlook amplifies the voice of any physician who has something to say. It also engages patients who still believe in physician-led, team-based care. And Prescription for Success listeners can get 3 months free when you enter our promo code RX for Success and select the monthly option at checkout. That's a really great deal on this stunning publication. And now let's get back to today's interview.
Congratulations to the amazing Dr. Randy Cook and his entire production team for reaching the milestone of 100 podcasts. Randy's intelligence, compassion, folksy demeanor, and silky smooth voice make him my favorite podcast host of all time. Best wishes, Randy, for continued success for years to come.
This is Dr. Paul Pender, and I want to wish all the success to Rhonda Crow and Randy Cook for reaching this milestone of 100 podcasts. I was very fortunate to connect with you both as my book was coming out, and that interview was very helpful for my own purposes of getting the word out. So I've since been a listener to your podcasts and have continued to support your program. So once again, thank you again for the help that you offered me, and to all of your listeners who really appreciate the dedication, hard work, and leadership of all of the speakers that you invite to your program. Best of luck for the next 100 podcasts.
Dr. Russ Greenfield finds his most common source of anger in a very common place.
When my computer breaks down. I am a pretty laid-back guy, very generally speaking, but if I get, but the computer glitch or I've lost an email, whatever the case may be, I can go from 0 to 60 very quickly.
Dr. John Chuck has a very unusual trigger for his anger.
Cilantro. I'm one of those 45% of people where it tastes like poison, which is killer because I'm Chinese American. We sprinkle a lot of cilantro on things, and then I love Mexican food, but all the free salsa, I can't eat it because it has cilantro, and I wish my wife loves it. She can grab it by the handful because she doesn't have that gene that I have. So Yeah, it's cilantro. It's super sad.
Dr. Desh Mohan has a source of anger that we can all identify with.
Pagers. I think the sound that pagers make give me PTSD.
Yeah, I can understand that. Nicole Johnson has a very interesting choice for a dinner companion.
I think about this question often, and I can never pick one person, but I would love to pick the brain of Donald Trump. I would love, and to
I don't know if you could do that in one dinner.
I know. Well, right, but not have him really talk. Just answer my question,
right,
and nothing else, and just I have a lot of questions I want to ask him.
Christopher Sheeran would like to have dinner with a person from history.
It would be who I regard to be our greatest founding father, Randy, which is Alexander Hamilton. Our nation would not be what it is today without Hamilton. Before the musical came along, he was probably the least heralded of our founding fathers, and yet his decision, especially around a central bank and our economy and not letting the Jeffersonians win by prioritizing an agriculture economy, as much as I love farming, Hamilton, I think, had the greatest set of fingerprints on why we are the most prosperous, free, and successful country in the world than any of our founding fathers. And that's why I would choose him.
Dr. Deb Roman would like to have dinner with a person with a very uncommon talent.
I would say Robin Williams, because he made me laugh.
Wow, what a good pick.
He made me laugh in a way that, you only laugh, belly laughing.
Mm-hmm.
And, you see people laugh. And I so appreciated that opportunity to laugh that way. But he also made me cry because he was so insightful and he so valued people and, kindness and respect and compassion. So he'd be my pick.
Dr. Rebecca Bernard would like to talk to the president about a problem that doesn't get nearly enough attention.
Well, I'd have to have his ear about the non-physician practitioners just because that's a passion.
Big surprise.
Yeah, I know. You didn't see that one coming at all. I would definitely talk about that, and also more investment in primary care. And I would have to talk about the gap with residents. It's really sad that 4,000 United States citizens, 2,400 of which graduated from U.S. medical schools and another 2,000 from abroad, did not match into a residency spot this year. That's 4,000 future physicians that now have to spend a year doing research or, God forbid, waiting tables or doing something when they have a $250,000 plus in student loans. So that's something that I think needs to be addressed immediately. We're always hearing about there's this physician shortage, so let's hire non-physicians to plug the gap. Well, what about all these thousands of doctors that have paid their dues and there just simply were not enough slots for them to get in? It's not that they're not worthy. I have a lot of friends that I know through social media that did not match, and I was devastated for them, and I saw no reason that they shouldn't have matched really worthy candidates. It's just a simple matter of there's not enough slots.
Dr. Ivy Fisher had a very good reason for a very low exam score.
For the most important exam of my life, which at that time was an oral exam, I went to San Antonio, Texas, and unfortunately didn't study and went to all the jazz clubs. And when I went in the morning, I had not slept well, and I did not pass that first oral exam, and it devastated me. And I called my dad, and my dad said, "That's okay. Making a mistake is an opportunity for learning." So the next year, I made the appointment, and I think it was somewhere else where I couldn't be distracted. And I did end up passing with flying colors. It was fine.
Dr. Louis Profeta.
Yes. Yeah, more than once.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think you can get much lower, can you? I think though in Animal House, I think some people had 0.0 GPA, but I got like an F in algebra. I think I got an F in chemistry at one point in high school, something like that.
That's great news. That's very inspirational. You don't talk to a lot of doctors that'll admit that. And there's probably more F's in there than they admit. But
I don't know if you read the article in the Washington Post. I went back and gave the commencement address at my high school, and the Washington Post published my commencement address about how I went from F's to medical school. So,
I got to read that one. That's got to be a great read. All right.
I think I only got 2 academic awards in grade school, junior high, and high. I got a ribbon for putting plastic dinosaurs into Play-Doh and painting it black and calling it the La Brea Tar Pits. and then I won a poster contest for the pancake supper in grade school. That's it. Those are my 2 academic accolades.
All right. Dr. Kristen Dickerson, what's the lowest grade you've ever made, and in what subject?
It was a D, and I talked my way into a C with the agreement that I would retake the class. And I've got to think of what it was. It was Calculus 2. I just got lost.
Yeah, nobody's going to think less of you for that.
It was Calculus 2. I just got lost, and I never got back. The second time it was easy, but the first time I couldn't catch it.
Broadcast veteran Bob Berkowitz, an expert in communications, but he has some issues with math.
I stunk.
Yeah.
I was great at languages. I was great at history, social studies, anything like that. I enjoyed it. I was pretty good in French class, but math, man, it really stumped me. And fortunately today, all I do is whip out a calculator. I can get things done.
Dr. Bill Ennis.
I got a 61 on an anatomy quiz.
Oh my goodness!
It was the second quiz, and it was pins in the structures, and every minute the bell rings, and I don't know what happened, but I can see the 61 on the piece of paper as I'm talking to you, and I was devastated.
Had to have been traumatic for a person who strives for perfection.
I was devastated.
But clearly you got over it.
I got over it. I rebounded.
Good for you.
Dr. Natalie Newman recalls some fond childhood memories.
Oh, living overseas in Japan when my dad was in the military, Japan and Taiwan, best memories ever.
What was good about it? What do you remember the most?
Well, the Japan, it was the cherry blossoms. I would read these fairy tales. I mean, here people did Hansel and Gretel. Over there, you read Japanese fairy tales. So it was a little peach boy and all of the Japanese fairy tales, and just kind of living in that world that was so clean and fresh. And we were just Americans. There was no divisiveness. You were just Americans, all the dependents. And so it just was a free time. It felt free and beautiful, and it was so clean there. And the Japanese were so welcoming, and the language and the culture is so beautiful.
Dr. John Jurica, what is your best childhood memory?
Probably my best childhood memory is in a rowboat fishing with my dad in any of a number of different places. My dad worked nights, and I never really saw him most of the time when I was growing up till I was about 10. But he would take time on the occasional weekend or summer day and usually take me fishing, just me, in spite of my 9 siblings being back at home. And so that was good.
You must have been the quietest one.
Oh, yeah. I was except when I was fishing. If I wasn't catching fish, I would throw an absolute fit when I was 7, 8, 9 years. Yeah, I don't know why he took me, because I just would throw a fit.
Dr. Marta Irueka.
My best childhood memory was a time when my whole family lived in Washington, D.C., and my father was in a diplomatic appointment as ambassador. And the reason why I choose that time is because all of us, including my sister who passed away, we were all together at that time.
So you guys must have done a good bit of shuttling between the U.S. and Panama during your childhood. I know your dad was a very successful politician, and you spent time in New York, a lot of time I don't know if I should say a lot, but between New York and Washington, that must have been a significant part of your education.
Yeah, a big part of my life was travel, but because of my father's career, he was always traveling. So it was tricky to find periods of life when we were all together in one place, and that's the one time that comes to mind where we all actually landed on the same place. Yeah.
David Balot has a very interesting childhood memory.
You know, my parents worked, they had their own business. My dad was a tailor, and he and mom worked together. And dad was both deaf and mute. So
really,
I'd have to say that, you know, I was at a young age, I'd work front desk and I would interpret and I would, you know, handle the business at the front of the office while he was doing the work in the back. And it was just fun time. It was a great time with my dad. He's no longer with us. He's no longer with us, but it was a great way for me to understand business.
So you learned signing almost simultaneously with learning to speak? Is that how it is?
Yes.
Isn't that incredible? What a great story. I'm glad to hear that. Dr. Richard Stramko reflects on his childhood memories.
Just honestly, just fishing with my dad. Like, my dad would take me all over the place, like fishing, you know, just like boat trips or salmon fishing streams, and, you know, just getting out in nature and doing all of that stuff had quite a good impact. So that was great. And also, well, just hanging out with my mom. My mom actually passed away quite early in life, and so just any of the memories with her. She actually, I know I'm droning on, but this is kind of interesting in that she would like sneak me into blues bars when I was like 15 and underage.
No kidding, how cool.
Like, so cool to like watch these amazing guitar players that would kind of tour around. And so I still remember that, like watching these wicked guitar solos and knowing that I was a bit of, you know, I shouldn't be there, but it was pretty fun because of that.
Dr. Jay Shah.
There are several of my best childhood memories, but one of them is being talked about in in all the families, is that when, you know, we were traveling with my parents, and, you know, in India, you have to really rush to get your seat in the bus, right? So you have to try to be proactive in to get the seat in the bus. And, you know, I was 6-year-old and we were all traveling, and I was proactive. I went in and I sat in the front of the bus. And I just thought that, you know, my parents may have also sat in the bus, but they decided not to because it was too crowded. And I ended up going alone, and the conductor said, "Where is your ticket?" And I said, "It's in the back," you know. And the funniest part was this one. When we reached the destination, the conductor said, "It looks like you're lost." I said, "No, I am in the right place. I think my parents have got lost." So this is the story of our family that we listen to all the time. So
that is so funny. That is the best answer to that question that I have ever heard. That's a good one. Dr. Lee Rogers remembers his parents' business.
My dad used to own a restaurant in our town. He was the mayor of our town for a while, but he used to own a restaurant, and I'd go down to the restaurant, and I thought I was the manager. This is when I was a little kid, you know. But like a 7 or 8 years old, I'd tell people what to do, and they actually did it because, you know, your dad owns the restaurant, and I remember having so much fun doing that.
But you don't think it would be a job you would want to do, right?
Not anymore, no.
Okay. Dr. Wendy Cole.
I don't know if it's my best memory, but one that sticks out from my childhood. I have a brother who's 2 years younger than me, and we've always been very close because we're close in age. But, you know, with siblings, there can be some cantankerous relationships sometimes, right? And specifically, I remember I was driving and my brother was not. So let's just say I was 16, he was 14. And I came home one night after being out with friends. And he asked me to take my car for a spin. And I gave him the keys. And he knew how to drive because he had dirt bikes and ATVs. We lived in the country, and he mowed the lawn since he was like 8, you know, so he knew how to drive. I actually gave him the keys, and I went to bed, and he took the car around the neighborhood, and I heard my dad get up while he was gone. And I thought, oh my God, we're both dead. My dad's going to kill us. And so I hear my brother pull into the driveway, and I'm like, oh my God, he's gonna throw me under the bus, and so my dad's gonna kill him and then come kill me. And I'll tell you what, my brother didn't say to my dad that I gave him the keys. He took all of the...
kidding.
Yes, he took all of my dad's fury. My dad's 100% Italian too, so he's got a temper just like me, and he's stubborn like me. So, I mean, and that changed the relationship between my brother and I, because he did not snitch. He did not throw me under the bus. He took all of it. And, you know, my dad was furious. And so that was a game changer in our relationship. It just stands out as a pivotal moment.
You had the best little brother
I
ever.
really did. I did. Most people couldn't wait. Oh, but she gave me the keys. She said I could.
Oh, I would not only have thrown you under the bus, I would have shined a light on you.
I know. Nope.
Man.
He did not. It's a pretty
what
cool
a
dude.
guy. What's he doing now?
He actually is a manager for a car dealership.
Yeah.
He's a used car salesman.
He's a guy. Dr. Jim Etten.
I have two, and they both took place when I was 10 years old. The first one was when I got at an airplane, an airliner, which we called them then. It was probably a DC-7 or something. We took off, and I could see the ground going away, and I said, this is amazing. Then we went through a bunch of clouds, and we popped out on top, and all you could see for miles was just this flat layer of beautiful white clouds with the sun shining and not another cloud in the sky. And we flew all the way up to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania from Chattanooga. And that was the beginning of my interest in aviation.
So that would have been in the early 50s.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. The same year, I read a book which has always stayed with me. It's called The Silent World by Jacques Cousteau. And I said, I've got to do that. And as soon as I could, I did. And we just scuba dived all over the world until probably 15 years ago, when my wife and I looked at each other and he said, you know, we've scuba dived everywhere, but we've never been on top of the water. We don't know what the land looks like. So we sort of gave it up and traveled on top of the water.
Hey, Randy, this is Rick here. I just want to say congratulations on a wonderful couple years of Prescription for Success podcast. I've enjoyed working with you and hope to continue in the future. Congratulations again on this show, and I hope you have 100 more. Best wishes, Rick.
Randy, this is Scott Abramson, and happy 100th episode. And Randy, as you always commonly do in your recordings, you talk about everyone else's origin story. And so I just want to bring up your origin story for this RX for Success podcast that you have. And as you've told the story many times, Rhonda Crow rediscovered the 18-year-old high school disc jockey that was tucked away deep in your soul. And after that discovery, as they say, the rest is history. And Randy and Rhonda both, I want to thank you both for bringing us not just so many interesting folks on your podcast, but bringing us their profound wisdom. I am eternally grateful for all that you've been doing. Congratulations.
Thank you so much for joining our 100th episode celebration. If you'd like access to membership-only material, head on over to our Patreon page and subscribe at www.patreon.com/MD Coaches. You'll find the podcast, plus rapid-fire questions, and a link to our companion YouTube channel inside the Doctor's Lounge. And before we go, I want to give very special thanks to Rhonda Crow, founder and CEO of MD Coaches, who had the idea to start RX for Success. Without her vision, this podcast would never have happened. Special thanks also to Craig Clausen, who edits the show, and to Ryan Jones, who created and performs our theme music. And remember, be sure to fill your prescription for success with my next episode.